John stared at the stars outside the window of the ship. He had always loved the quiet beauty of space, but tonight something felt different. Usual peace was gone, replaced with an unsettling sense of anticipation. His fingers drummed nervously on the control panel. His mission had started as any other routine. But now, everything was changing. "Captain, we're receiving an emergency signal," came the voice of his communications officer, Sarah. "It's not from any known species. It's a distress call." John's heart skipped a beat. His mind raced. Distress call? From who? Sarah quickly typed in commands, bringing the transmission up on the screen. The signal was weak, but clear enough to make out a few words. "Help. We need." The human. John's brow furrowed. He had never heard of a species reaching out for humans before. Was this some sort of mistake? He stood up, walking to the comms panel. "Send a response, Sarah. Tell them we're coming. Prepare the crew." The crew quickly scrambled into action, the ship buzzing with urgency as they adjusted course. They were heading to an uncharted part of space. No one knew what lay ahead. John couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just a random distress call. The words haunted him. The human. Hours passed, and the ship moved through the void of space. The crew members were all on edge, no one sure what to expect when they arrived. But John couldn't shake the feeling that he was meant to be here. The message seemed to call to him, to pull him forward. He couldn't explain why, but he felt connected to it somehow. Finally, the ship entered the atmosphere of a nearby planet. The planet was dark and quiet, a shadow in the vastness of space. The crew adjusted their settings, readying the ship for landing. "Captain, we've made contact," Sarah's voice interrupted his thoughts. "The signal is coming from the surface. It's not like anything we've seen before. There's a structure down there." John nodded, his fingers gripping the edge of the D. "Panel? All right, prepare the landing gear. We're going down." The ship touched down gently on the alien soil. As the crew disembarked, John's heart raced. The air was thick with tension. The landscape was unlike anything he had ever seen. Trees, jagged rocks, and an eerie silence that seemed to hang in the air. The team moved cautiously, their boots making soft thuds on the soft, uneven ground. "Stay close, everyone," John ordered. "We don't know what we're walking into." They moved forward in silence, following the strange signal until they reached an opening in the ground. There, standing tall and regal, was a being unlike any other John had seen. She was a woman, but not human. Her skin shimmered with an otherworldly glow, a soft ethereal light that seemed to come from within her. Her hair was silver, cascading down her back like a waterfall of starlight. Her eyes, large and glowing with a deep violet hue, were fixed on him with an intensity that made his breath catch. John froze. He had never seen anything like her before. This was the alien queen. She stepped forward, her presence overwhelming. Despite the strange beauty of her form, it was the feeling she gave off that left him speechless. She was powerful, ancient, and yet there was something soft and vulnerable about her as well. It was as though she carried the weight of 1,000 lives on her shoulders, yet she still sought something more. "Human," her voice rang out, smooth and melodic. It was not harsh or demanding, but somehow ... familiar. "At last I have found you." John's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure what to say. He was still trying to wrap his mind around what was happening. The crew behind him stood in stunned silence, unsure of how to respond. The queen took another step toward him. Her gaze softened. "I have searched for so long. You are the one who can save my people. You're the key." John was taken aback. The key? To what? What could he possibly do? He was just a soldier, trained for combat, not for saving entire civilizations. But something in the queen's eyes told him this was no ordinary request. She needed him, and, in some strange way, he knew he couldn't walk away from this. I don't understand," John said slowly, his voice shaky. "What do you mean? Why me?" The queen's eyes glowed brighter as she spoke again, her voice a whisper, yet somehow carrying the weight of centuries. "You are the last hope for my world. My people have been dying for generations. We are on the brink of extinction. Only a human can bring us the salvation we need. John's mind raced. Couldn't make sense of it. This was a dream, wasn't it? It's some kind of trick? But the look in her eyes told him she was speaking the truth. She was desperate, and somehow, in some way, he couldn't understand. He was the answer. The queen stepped closer, her presence overwhelming him. I've traveled across the stars, fought countless battles, and lost everything. But I found you, human. You are the key to saving us. The air around them seemed to hum with energy. John felt a strange warmth spread through him. The queen's hand reached out, touching his arm gently. Her skin was cool, soft, yet her touch carried a weight, as if the very touch of her was a sacred thing. I never imagined I would find you, she whispered. But now that I have, there is no turning back. John's heart pounded in his chest. This was insane. He was just a soldier, a simple man with no extraordinary abilities. And yet, here he was, standing before an alien queen who believed he was her salvation. He didn't know what was happening or why it was happening, but he couldn't turn away. He felt the pull, an undeniable connection, like gravity itself. He had to help her, even if he didn't fully understand why. The fate of her people rested in his hands, and somehow he knew he couldn't fail her. The queen looked deep into his eyes, her expression softening. You will help us, won't you, human? Together, we can save my people. John took a deep breath, his mind still racing. He looked around at his crew, who were still standing in shock. They were just as confused as he was. There was no denying. This was bigger than any mission he had ever been on. This was destiny. I'll help you, John said, his voice firm. But I need answers. I don't know what's happening here. I don't know what you need me to do. The queen nodded. Slowly, her face filled with gratitude. I will explain everything. But first, we must go to my people. You will see the truth for yourself. And together, we will fight to save my world. As they walked toward the ship, John's heart continued to race. The journey ahead would be unlike anything he had ever faced. One thing was certain, this was just the beginning of something far greater. John and his crew followed Queen Neerath through the dark landscape, the strange world around them buzzing with life. The air was thick and heavy with an unfamiliar sense, something earthy and alive, but also ancient, as though this place had been untouched for thousands of years. The crew, led by John, walked in silence, their eyes wide with curiosity. Trying to make sense of everything they had just witnessed, Neerath led them to a massive stone structure in the center of the alien world. It was beautiful, though worn with time. Intricate carvings covered the walls, some depicting strange creatures, others showing star maps that didn't make any sense to John. He tried to imagine how long it had taken for this alien queen to travel across the galaxy, searching for the human who could save her people. But even as he tried to comprehend it, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was all a dream. Welcome to my home, Neerath said softly as she opened the massive door, revealing a large circular room inside. The room was lit by glowing crystals that seemed to pulse with a gentle light, casting long shadows along the walls. In the center of the room there was a large circular table surrounded by seats. Neerath took her place at the head, motioning for John and the crew to sit. We have much to discuss, she said. Her voice was calm, but John could hear the urgency beneath it. She was trying to stay composed, but he could sense her fear. It wasn't the fear of someone in danger, it was the fear of someone who knew that time was running out. John sat at the table, his mind racing with questions. He had never met anyone like Neerath before. She wasn't just an alien. She was a queen, someone who carried the hopes of an entire civilization on her shoulders. But why him? Why had she come all this way to find a simple human like him? Why me? John asked. His voice was firm, though his heart was still unsure. Why do you think I can help you? Neerath looked at him, her violet eyes intense but filled. With a deep sadness, she took a slow breath before answering. It's not just you, John. It's your people, the humans. Dodd raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? Humans are just regular people. We've got no special powers, no secret abilities. Neerath shook her head slowly. That is where you are wrong. You may not see it, but your race has something that no other species has. possess the potential to save my people. Your blood is the key. John's confusion deepened. I still don't understand? What does that mean? How can I help you? Naruth paused, gathering her thoughts. What? My people have been dying for generations, John. Our planet is on the brink of collapse. The soil is barren, the air is toxic, and our cities are in ruins. We have tried everything to survive. But the one thing we never considered was that the answer was with youth of humans. John sat back in his chair, stunned. You're saying that humans can save your planet? Narath nodded. Yes, but not just any human. You are special, John. There's something in your blood, something that links you to us. For centuries, we have searched for this answer. We didn't know where to look or who to look for. But I knew one day I would find you. I was chosen to find you. John's mind raced as he tried to process everything she was telling him. He was no scientist. He was just a soldier, sent to protect his people. He didn't feel special. He didn't feel like he had any unique ability. And yet, here he was, sitting across from an alien queen who was saying he held the fate of her people in his hands. But how? How can I be the answer to all of this? John asked. His voice was tinged with disbelief. Narath leaned forward, her expression softening. We have spent centuries studying the humans. First we thought you were just like any other species, primitive, weak, and easily controlled. But over time, we discovered something incredible. Your blood, John, it has the ability to regenerate. It has properties that no other species possesses. It's what my people need to survive. John's heart began to race. So you want my blood? Narath nodded, her gaze steady. Yes, but it's not just a simple transfer. You are the first human I have encountered who carries the full potential. We need your blood to be able to synthesize the healing properties necessary to restore my people's dying world. John stood up, pacing around the room. I don't know if I can do this. I'm just a soldier. I don't have the knowledge or the skills to save anyone. Narath stood as well, moving toward him with a gentle grace. That is why I am here, John. To teach you, to help you understand. You have the power to heal, but you must learn how to unlock it. John turned to face her. And how do you plan on doing that? Narath smiled softly. There are rituals, ancient practices we can perform too. Unlock your full potential. My people have knowledge of the stars, the elements, and the human body. Together, we can combine our wisdom and skills. It will help us, John, and we will help you. John's mind was still reeling. It all sounded impossible. But as he looked into Narath's eyes, he saw something in her that he hadn't noticed. Before, quiet strength. She wasn't asking him for something out of selfishness or greed. She was asking because her people were dying, and she truly believed that he was the answer. How much time do we have? John asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Not much. Narath answered, her face hardening. My people are desperate. The planet is dying faster than we anticipated. We don't have years to waste. Every moment counts. John felt the weight of her words. He wasn't just caught in the middle of an intergalactic conflict. He was part of something far bigger than himself, something that could change the fate of an entire species. I don't know if I'm ready for this, John muttered, his voice full of doubt. Narath placed a hand on his shoulder. You don't have to be ready, John. All you need to do is trust. Trust in your blood. Trust in me. Together, we can save my people. The room fell silent, and for a moment, John stood there, the weight of everything pressing down on him. He had a choice to make, one that would not only shape his future, but the future of an entire civilization. Finally, he nodded. Okay, I'll help you. Just ... show me what to do. Narath smiled warmly, her eyes filled with gratitude. Thank you, John. You have no idea how much this means to us. As the crew prepared to begin their journey, John felt the first stirrings of hope. He wasn't sure how this would end, but one thing was certain. His life would never be the same again. As the days passed, John found himself unable to stop thinking about what Narath had told him. He was still in disbelief that he, just an ordinary human soldier, was the key to saving an entire alien species. He had always thought of himself as a simple man, doing his job and following orders. But now, he was part of something that was bigger than anything he had ever imagined. Nereth spent every moment she could teaching John about her world, about her people, and about the strange abilities his blood held. Learned that her species, the Alethi, were not like any other race. They were an ancient people, connected to the stars, and their civilization was once full of beauty and power. But now, it was on the brink of extinction. Their planet Lyra was dying. The land was barren, the waters were poisoned, and their once thriving cities were falling apart. The Alethi had tried everything to save their world's science, medicine, even dark magic, but nothing had worked. It was only when they discovered the connection between humans and Alethi that they realized what they needed: John and others like him. John spent hours with Neruth, learning about the rituals that could unlock the healing potential of his blood. At first, it all seemed impossible. There was no way his blood could have the power to save a dying world. But as he spent more time with Nereth, he began to feel something stir inside him, a strange energy that he couldn't explain, as though the very air around him had changed, and his body was reacting in ways he didn't understand. But not everyone was convinced. The crew on the ship, especially the more experienced officers, were becoming increasingly worried. They didn't trust the Alethi, and they didn't trust the situation. John had spent years in the military, but nothing had prepared him for this. As much as he wanted to help Neruth, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the story than he was being told. One evening, while the crew sat around the ship's mess hall, a heated conversation broke out. "I don't trust this," said Captain Vance, his voice low and angry. "We don't know what these aliens really want. They've come to us asking for help, but we don't even know if they can be trusted." John looked at Vance, trying to keep his emotions in check. "I know you're worried, Captain, but we have to give them a chance. Nereth isn't like the other alien species we've encountered. She's not here to destroy us. She's asking for our help because her people are dying." Vance scoffed. "That's exactly what they want us to think. Ow. Do we know this is all just a trap? What if they're using you, John? You're the only one who can help them. What if it's all just a trick?" John stood up, his hands clenched into fists. "I'm not some pawn in their game, Captain. I'm doing this because I want to help. And if we don't help them, no one else will. Their world will be lost." The room fell silent, and everyone turned their gaze to John. He could feel the weight of their stares, their doubt.
Ow!
But deep down, he knew he was right. This wasn't just about the Alathiate. It was about something much bigger. Humanity had always been a part of the universe, but now they had the chance to shape the fate of another species. It was a responsibility he couldn't ignore, but the tension didn't end there. As John continued to work closely with Nereth, the pressure mounted. There was talk among the crew about the dangers of involving themselves too deeply with the Alethi. Some even whispered that the Queen's growing attachment to John was a sign of weakness. John knew that he had to remain focused. The Alethi needed him, and Nereth had placed her trust in him. But as the days wore on, he began to notice something troubling. The Queen's presence seemed to affect him in ways he hadn't expected. There were moments when he would catch himself staring at her, his heart racing, his thoughts drifting to places they shouldn't go. Nereth, too, seemed to sense the growing tension. One evening, after a long day of work, she found John standing alone on the ship's observation deck, looking out at the stars. "You're troubled," she said softly, stepping up beside him. John turned to face her, his expression conflicted. I don't know what to think anymore. I want to help you, Nereth. I really do. But every day I feel more and more like I'm being used. It's like I'm nothing more than a tool to fix a broken world." Nereth placed a hand on his arm. Her touch gentle but firm. "I don't want to use you, John. I know this is difficult for you. But what I'm asking of you is not just to save my people. It's to help us heal, to rebuild. You are not just a key to our survival. You're someone I've come to trust, someone I've come to care for." John felt his heart race as he looked into her eyes. There was something in her gaze, something vulnerable, something real. He had never felt such a connection with anyone before, and it terrified him. He had always kept his emotions in check, never allowing himself to be swept away by feelings. But now, in the presence of this alien queen, it was becoming harder and harder to control what he felt. I'm scared, John admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I don't know if I'm strong enough to do this. I don't know if I can carry the weight of an entire species on my shoulders. Naroth's eyes softened. You are stronger than you think, John, and you don't have to carry this alone. I'm here with you, and together we will find a way. For a moment, there was silence between them. The weight of the moment hung in the air, but John didn't feel the usual burden of doubt. For the first time in a long time, he felt a sense of purpose. It wasn't just about saving the Alethi anymore. It was about something deeper, something that connected him to Nerith, something that neither of them could ignore. But the tension was far from over. As the ship prepared for the next phase of their journey, John couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The crew's whispers, the growing distrust something was coming, and John wasn't sure if they were ready for it. The tension aboard the ship continued to grow. John had spent days working with Neroth, learning more about the ancient rituals that could unlock the power within him, the power that might save her people. The crew, still uneasy about the mission, kept their distance. They didn't trust the Alethi, and they didn't trust John's involvement with the Queen. But John couldn't ignore what he felt something deep within him, a connection that he couldn't explain. Neroth had shown him the ancient texts of her people, the ones that spoke of the prophecy. It was clear that John was meant to play a crucial role in saving the Alethi, but as the days passed, John began to wonder if he was truly ready for what lay ahead. The pressure of the situation weighed heavily on him. Could he really save Anne? Entire world? Could he live up to the expectations placed on him? Spent a quiet night on the ship's observation deck, looking out at the vastness of space. The stars seemed so far away, so unreachable. It reminded him of the distance between his own life and the life he was being asked to save. He was just one man, a soldier with no special powers, no abilities beyond his training. How could he possibly be the key to something so important? His thoughts were interrupted by a soft voice behind him. You're troubled, John. He turned to find Neroth standing there, her eyes filled with concern. She had become a constant presence in his life over the past few days, teaching him, guiding him, and offering him her trust. But even she could see the doubt in his eyes. I don't know if I can do this, John confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. I'm not like you. I don't have the power to fix things. Just ... a soldier, a regular man. Neroth stepped closer, her expression softening. You are more than just a soldier, John. You are the one who can bring hope to my people. Your blood, your strength, it is the key to everything we need. John shook his head, his frustration evident. But how? Can it be? How can my blood do what all your technology and magic couldn't? It doesn't make sense. Nerith took a deep breath, her eyes never leaving his. I understand your doubt, John. But the truth is, the power is not in your blood alone. It's in your heart. It's in your willingness to fight for something bigger than yourself. That is what we need. We need someone who believes in us, someone who is willing to stand with us, no matter the cost. John felt a pang in his chest. Her words were powerful, and he could see the sincerity in her eyes. But there was still something he couldn't shake. Something that gnawed at him deep inside. The stakes were too high. He had no idea if he was truly ready for what was to come. But as he looked at Neroth, he realized one thing. He couldn't walk away. Not now. Not when so many lives depended on him. I'll do it, he said quietly, his voice filled with determination. I'll help you. I'll help your people. Neroth's face softened with relief, and she placed a gentle hand on his arm. Thank you, John. You don't know how much this means to us. But even as they shared this moment of understanding, an unsettling feeling lingered in the back of John's mind. The Alethi had been searching for someone like him for centuries. But now that he was here, he couldn't help but wonder, what would happen if they couldn't save her people? What if the rituals didn't work? What if they had all made a terrible mistake? Their quiet moment was interrupted by an urgent beep from the ship's control panel. The voice of Sarah, the communications officer, crackled through the intercom. Captain, we've detected a fleet. It's not friendly. John's heart skipped a beat. What kind of fleet? Unknown, Sarah replied. But it's massive. and it's heading straight for us. John exchanged a look with Nerith, who stood straighter, her face hardening. They've come, she whispered almost to herself. The ones who want us to fail. John didn't need to ask who she meant. There were others in the galaxy who saw the Alethi as a threat, and they would do anything to stop their survival. But now, with the enemy closing in, the real test had begun. We need to prepare for battle, John said, his voice firm. Get the crew ready. We're not running from this. Nerith nodded, her eyes burning with determination. We will fight together. John, this is our final chance. As the crew scrambled to prepare for the incoming battle, John and Nerith shared one last look. They both knew that this fight would decide the future of the Alethi. It wasn't just about blood anymore. It was about strength, unity, and the will to survive. And it was up to them to lead the charge. The enemy fleet arrived just as the Alethi had predicted, massive, menacing, and ready to destroy. But John wasn't afraid. He knew that whatever happened next, he had made the right choice. He was standing with Nerith and her people, and together they would fight for their survival. The battle was fierce. Explosions rocked the ship, and the sound of laser fire filled the air. But John fought with everything he had, every ounce of his strength focused on protecting the Queen and her people. As the battle raged on, he could feel the power within. Him growing stronger, the connection between him and Nerith pulsing with energy. It was as if the two of them were feeding off each other's strength, each drawing power from the other. Finally, after what felt like hours, the enemy fleet retreated. The Alethi had won, but the cost had been high. The ship was damaged, and many of the crew were injured. But they had survived. They had made it through the first test. John stood at the front of the ship, looking out at the wreckage of the enemy fleet. His heart was still pounding, but there was a sense of accomplishment. He had done it. He had fought for something bigger than himself, and it had made all the difference. Nerith stood beside him, her hand resting gently on his arm. We have won this battle, John, she said softly. But the real fight is just beginning. John nodded, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead. I know, but we're ready for whatever comes next. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They would face it together. The ship was quiet after the battle. The enemy fleet had retreated, but their damage had left a heavy mark. John stood in the ship's control room, looking out at the wreckage of the enemy vessels floating in space. The Alethi had won, but at what cost? The crew was injured, the ship was damaged, and the battle had left more questions than answers. Nerith joined him, her presence as calm as ever, though John could see the strain in her eyes. She had never shown any fear before, but now even her strength seemed to be tested. We won, John said, his voice low. But it feels like there's something else coming, something bigger. Nerith stood beside him, her gaze fixed on the stars. Ahead. The worst is not over, John. The enemy we fought today was only a small part of the larger force that seeks to destroy us. They will return, stronger and more determined. John felt a chill run through him. What can we do if we face them again? Will we even survive? Nerith turned to him, her face serious. We must make a choice. We can't keep running from this fight. The Alethi have been dying for so long because we refuse to take risks. We have to be willing to sacrifice everything to save our people. And you, John, you are the key to that sacrifice. John frowned, not understanding. What are you saying? Nerith's eyes met his, filled with a deep, quiet pain. There is an ancient ritual one that could unlock the full potential of your blood, would give us the strength to fight back, to save my people. But the cost is great. The ritual requires a willing sacrifice, the energy needed to unlock this power. It could destroy you, John. John felt a lump form in his throat. The weight of her words was heavier than any battle he had ever faced. He was just a soldier. He had always been willing to put his life on the line for his country. But this was different. He wasn't sure if he could make the sacrifice Nerith was asking for. But as he looked at her, he saw the desperation in her eyes. He couldn't walk away now. Not when everything was on the line. I don't know if I can. Do this, John said quietly. I don't know if I'm ready to give everything. My life, ... my future. Nerith stepped closer, placing her hand on his. I know, it is a difficult choice. But you are the one who can save us, John. Without you, the Alethi will be lost. Without you, my people will fade into the dust of the universe. The ritual is the only way we can survive. John stood there, his mind racing. He had never been faced with something like this before. He wasn't sure what he should do. But then he thought of the Aletheia, of their dying planet, of Neretha and her people, who had placed their trust in him. And he thought of the sacrifices that had already been made, how much they had already lost. Could he really turn his back now? I can't walk away, John said, his voice firm. I'll do it. I'll make the sacrifice. But you have to promise me something. Neroth looked at him, her eyes wide with hope. What is it? You have to promise me that my sacrifice won't be in vain, John said, his voice full of emotion. Promise. Me that my blood will save your people, that it will help you rebuild. I'm not doing this just for the ritual. I'm doing it because I believe in you, Nerith. I believe in the future of the Alethi. Tears welled in Nerith's eyes. And for the first time, John saw the full weight of her burden. She wasn't just a queen leading her people. She was a leader who had carried the pain of loss for far too long, who had sacrificed so much already. She had never asked for this responsibility, but now it was hers to bear. And John had chosen to share that burden with her. I promise you, John, Nerith whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I promise that your sacrifice will not be in vain. We will rebuild. We will thrive again because of you. John took a deep breath, his heart heavy. Then let's do it. The ritual took place in the heart of the ship, where Nerith had set up a sacred space. The room was dimly lit, and the air was thick with the hum of ancient power. The crew had been informed of John's decision, but none of them knew exactly what was about to happen. They had trusted him, but now they watched in silence, unsure of what the outcome would be. Nerith stood beside John as they began the ritual, her hands resting gently on his shoulders. The air around them seemed to shift, growing heavier, as though the universe itself was holding its breath. Nerith chanted in an ancient Elathi language, her voice steady and strong. John could feel the energy building in the room, a strange warmth spreading through his veins. His blood seemed to come, alive, thrumming with power. You are not alone, John, Nerith whispered. Your sacrifice will bring hope to my people, and together we will overcome. The ritual intensified, the power coursing through John's body, making him feel lightheaded. It was as though his very soul was being pulled from him, yet he didn't fight it. He had already made his choice. He had already decided that his life was worth the cost if it meant saving the Alethi. And then, in a burst of light, everything went still. John's body felt heavy, his energy drained, but he wasn't afraid. He had done what was needed. He had given everything for Nerith, for the Alethi, for the future. Nerith was by his side in an instant, her hands gently holding him up. John, you've done it, she said, her voice filled with awe. You've saved us. John looked into her eyes, his strength fading, but his heart at peace. It's not over yet, he said with a weak smile. You still have to rebuild. You still have to fight. Nerith nodded, tears in her eyes. And we will, John. We will fight, and we will win. The crew watched as the queen and the soldier shared their moment, knowing that their future had just been rewritten. The Alethi were no longer alone. They had a chance to survive thanks to John's sacrifice, as the ship prepared to leave the broken world behind. The stars ahead felt just a bit brighter. The battle had been won, but the true fight was just beginning. John slowly opened his eyes, the bright light of the ship's interior blinding him for a moment. He felt heavier than he had ever felt before, his body weak and drained. Every muscle in his body ached, and his mind was clouded as if he had been pulled from a deep sleep. But despite the pain, despite the overwhelming exhaustion, there was a sense of peace. A quiet kind of peace that told him he had done something important. He had made a difference. As his vision cleared, he saw Neroth standing beside him, her eyes filled with concern. Her once strong and confident demeanor was now replaced with a quiet tenderness, a softness that John had never seen before. Awake, Neroth whispered, her voice full of emotion. You did it, John. You saved us. John tried to sit up, but his body protested. He felt as though he had given every ounce of his energy to the ritual, and now there was nothing left. But he didn't mind. He had made the sacrifice, and he was at peace with that. The Elathi would survive. I didn't think it would be like this, John said, his voice hoarse. He winced as he tried to speak. I thought it would hurt more, but it feels like everything is right. Neroth smiled softly. That's because you gave everything for us, John. Your blood has unlocked the power we needed to survive, and now we can rebuild. John looked at her, his eyes tired but filled with a sense of wonder. You really believe that? That we can start over? I do, Neroth replied firmly. You've given us hope, John, more than you will ever know. With your help, we can heal the planet, can bring life back to Lyra. For the first time since he had arrived on this alien world, John felt a sense of certainty. He had always questioned whether he was truly making a difference. He had always doubted his ability to do anything that mattered. But now, looking at Nerith and hearing her words, he knew that his sacrifice had not been in vain. Nerith took his hand, her touch gentle but firm. You're not alone in this, John. We will rebuild together as equals. You have become one of us. Elathi will never forget what you've done. John smiled weakly, his strength slowly returning as the power from the ritual began to heal him. I never expected any of this. I never expected to find myself here, helping to save a world that wasn't my own. You are a part of our world now, John, Neroth said, her voice filled with warmth. You are family. John's heart swelled at her words. Oh. It had been a long time since he had felt a sense of belonging. And now, in this strange new world, with this alien queen, he felt more at home than he ever had before. But even as he embraced this new sense of purpose, John knew that the journey was far from over. The Elathi still had much to rebuild, and the galaxy was vast and unknown. There were challenges ahead, challenges that no one could predict, but John was no longer afraid. He had made it through the hardest part, and now, with Nerith by his side, he was ready for whatever came next. Days passed as John recovered, his body slowly regaining strength. The crew continued their work, repairing the ship and preparing for the next phase of their journey. Neroth worked tirelessly, her leadership and vision driving the Elathi toward a brighter future. The rituals had unlocked the potential for healing, but there was still much to be done. John knew that the road ahead would be long, but he no longer doubted that they would succeed as he sat in the ship's common area one afternoon, reflecting on everything that had happened. Sarah, the communications officer, approached him with a concerned look on her face.
Captain?
Sarah began hesitantly. We've been receiving strange signals from a nearby sector. They're faint, but they seem to be coming from a ship. We don't know what it is, but it's unlike anything we've encountered before. John's eyes narrowed. Any idea who it could be? Sarah shook her head. Not yet, but it's worth checking out. Should we investigate? Now John stood up slowly, his body still recovering, but his mind sharp. Prepare a small team. We'll investigate, but be careful. We don't know who or what we're dealing with. As the team prepared for the mission, John found himself growing more and more curious about the mysterious signal. The universe was vast, and the possibilities of what they might discover seemed endless. But he had come to realize that, no matter what lay ahead, he was no longer the same person who had first set foot on this alien world. He was a different man now, shaped by the experiences he had lived through and by the sacrifice he had made. For the Elathi, the ship moved toward the source of the signal, its engines humming steadily as the crew worked together, preparing for whatever came next. Nerith stood by John's side, her eyes focused on the distant stars. There was no fear in her gaze, only determination. She knew that they had made a choice to fight for survival, and now they would face whatever challenges came their way. Together, as the ship drew closer to the source of the signal, John couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement. The unknown was always intimidating, but now he had a purpose. He had a team. He had allies. And most importantly, he had hope. We'll face it together, John said quietly, turning to Nerth. No matter what it is, we'll face it together. Nereth nodded, her expression resolute. Together. The ship continued its journey into the unknown, and as they ventured into uncharted space, John felt a sense of optimism, which would ever lay ahead. He knew they had the strength to overcome it. They'd survived the hardest part, and now they would move forward into the future, united by their shared experiences and their newfound hope. The stars ahead were bright, and for the first time, John felt ready to face whatever challenge came next.